So all my clocks up here say 2 o'clock, so we'll keep going on here. So again, my name is Deborah Charlesworth. Thank you for those of you who are joining us new and for those of you who stuck around from the last session. Right now we're going to talk about Formatting 101 using the guide and Word template. As a sort of refresher for our schedule today, we just finished with Submission 101. We're on using the guide and template. After this one, we'll have a 15-minute break, or I guess as long as we go, because if I end early or late, I guess this is my place to make some time up just in case. And then we'll have copyright and checking and fixing your document at the end. And checking and fixing your document is a really, 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 really good one, because if you check your document and get it right the first time, you're going to save yourself weeks and weeks of time getting through the submission process. So I'd really encourage any of you who have the time to make sure you stick around through that one, or make sure you catch it online. All seminars are taped and will be available online later. So this seminar, we're going to talk about how to get information and help using the guide, finding the LaTeX template, and using the Word template. If you have any questions at any point regarding your graduate degree, we'd like to encourage you to email gradschool@mtu.edu. That email address gets to all the staff members in the graduate school, as well as our student staff, so there's no need to copy extra people or try and figure out who it is you need to ask your question to. This will allow you to get your answer real quickly and the answer that you need. On our website, you want to pay attention to the little menus there that are policies and procedures. That'll get you information about forms and deadlines, degree completion timelines, reports, theses and dissertations. Those are going to be the most important things to do as you're trying to finish your degree. That Resources For area has a current students link under there. And on that current students page, in the very middle of that, you will see a professional section. And that item that I've boxed in red, Graduate School Seminars, is where you will find all of the slides for today's seminar, as well as previous recordings from last semester's versions. So if you are watching us online, or you're here and have an electronic device with you and want the slides to annotate electronically, you can feel free to download those right now. Why should you care about formatting? Well, I think the first one's probably the most important, is that you can get done sooner. We really want you to get done. We're excited about your accomplishments. We want to see you succeed. We really don't take any joy in telling someone they can't graduate. This is not really the best part of my job when that happens. And with less expense. We talked about in the submission seminar how if you don't meet the formatting deadlines, we're going to charge you a fee. And I really don't want to charge you a fee, but I have to if you go past a certain point. The other one really is, a lot of people are looking at these documents. People will see your work. I've heard lots of stories of people who put like $50 bills inside their dissertation in the library and then come back 6 years later or 10 years later and the $50 bill is still inside there, and no one's picked it up off the shelf, and they're like, haha, I told you nobody'd look at it. And, but that's not the case anymore. It doesn't happen. These are digital. So maybe everyone's gonna go to the library now and start flipping through some guys. I should pick one out and just do it just to prove my point. But in the last year, when I did the seminar last fall, I looked at data from over a 12-month period. We had 146,000 downloads of 1,600 works, and it was an average then of about 88 downloads per document. So people are going to see your work, and they want to see your best representation of yourself. And this is your final piece of work. Whether it's a thesis or dissertation, it's the culmination of your work. And so it's important to take some care in it. The other thing that I've felt really strongly about because of my experience is that formatting is a transferable skill. We're always talking about, well, what did I really learn in my PhD? 'Cause you don't necessarily do all of those things all over again because you've learned them, you're gonna do something else. I use the formatting skills I learned on writing my dissertation and thesis pretty much every day. And I've saved myself thousands of hours by being able to do certain things very quickly and very efficiently, and with less headache. So that does help, and it's something that you can use for other things, not just for your dissertation or thesis. And so this shows you too, this was when I did this on September 25th, that it's not only viewed often, it's viewed all over the world. The US, Australia, Africa, South America, you name the country, somebody's probably looking at it. So this is a big thing. I think this was 400. I think this might have just been like one day. In one day, all these people came to our site and found these things. So it's being looked at. It's not going to go on a shelf and get discarded, and no one's going to look at it. So the guide is something that everybody needs to know about. I've actually had students come into my office, like, the semester before they graduate, saying, well, do you guys have any rules on how to write these things? Yes, we do. When I started this job, we didn't, but we do now. So where is it? Again, if you go to that policies and procedures area, if you go to reports or theses and dissertations, I'm going to show you the theses and dissertations one because that is the more commonly used one. But on the top of that page, it says students will prepare their documents using the guide. And so right on that home page of either one of those document pages is the guide. The guide is the similar, it's exact same file for reports, dissertations, and theses. Just we have slightly different requirements for each, so we created a separate area for them. And you can find examples. People always ask me, well, where can I find an example? Library's got thousands of them. So if you want to look at somebody else's who's done one recently, you can do that. That can be very helpful sometimes to see a visual example. The guide itself is also formatted in such a way that it presents double-sided formatting of a document that's properly formatted. So if you want to see an example of a document, it will show you that as well. And then for formatting, then that first link, the formatting and preparing, is going to be one of the most important areas for you to pay attention to. So the guide is a model for double-sided documents. If you love formatting, go ahead and do double-sided formatting. If you don't like formatting and want to graduate, I don't recommend it. It creates a lot of extra weird things that happen and little details that we check that we don't need to check for everybody else's documents. And there'll be like an error on page 89 and you'll need to fix it, and we don't want you to do that. So if you love formatting and really want it to look like a book, go ahead and do it. If you just want to get done, I would recommend single-sided formatting. The table of contents of the document lists the sections that are required and the common sections in the order they should appear in your document. So if you're wondering where a table of contents goes versus a list of figures versus acknowledgments versus your abstract, they're all listed in the order they appear. It's also bookmarked and hyperlinked, so it's showing you an example of good electronic document preparation. Bookmarks and hyperlinks help people with a 500-page document easily navigate around it. We couldn't think about the web without hyperlinks, so the same thing is true with a 500-page dissertation. It will be updated this semester. There's a couple of hyperlinks that are out of date because of the website changes that went last year, a couple things that are have changed a little bit. Nothing's changed out the formatting requirements, so if you download it today, it's the exact same formatting requirements, but there are a few things we'll kind of clarify in the 2018 edition. I'd hope to have that done for today, but that was an optimistic goal that was not met. So when you look at the guide, if there's a rule that says must do this, you must do this. That's the bottom line. If it's not in the guide, and there's a lot of things that aren't, how you format your references is not in the guide. The fact that you must have references is. So if it's something like that, whatever your advisor, committee, or program says is what goes next. And however that's determined in your unit is what you'll need to do. Again, read the guide, it's helpful. There's a lot of musts. Anything that's a must be done. But if it's a recommended or we think you should, then those are just helpful things, because students have asked us, well, how should I do this? I'm like, well, we'll put a little sentence in there about that so that you know how a figure caption should look and what a list of tables should look like. But those are things that you can kind of modify to suit your own needs. So getting started with the template. Again, if you go to either the theses page or the reports page, that first link is formatting and preparing, and that's where you'll find a wealth of information. In the last seminar, I talked about blog posts that are helpful. On that page, you will find a list of pretty much every blog post that's helpful. So if you're wondering where to find those, that would be one of the places to go and look for those. We have templates available. We have Word, which is there's a separate one for dissertations, theses, or reports, so you don't have to kind of think about what words need changing for each one. So you'll want to download the one that's appropriate for your document. And that is what we'll focus on today. Why? Because that's what I have expertise in. Can't be an expert in everything. I'm an expert in Word. That's what I'm an expert in. LaTeX, we also do have templates for that. New last semester was an account on Overleaf. So Overleaf is something that our library has a subscription to. At the break, I put out some handouts in the back of the room. So if you're thinking you want to do LaTeX, Overleaf is a way that you can do it on the web, and you can collaborate with people and share. It's kind of a new resource for LaTeX users. They have taken our dissertation template. They have put it on Overleaf. I can say from my own experience, I went online and kind of just poked in a few things and was able to get a title page up and running in pretty short order. I'm not an expert on LaTeX, but I could poke around and figure it out. And Overleaf has a variety of online tutorials to help you get started, and that's how the library would recommend as well that you start to use that. So if Overleaf is something you want to use, it's available, and you can create an account. And we have some handouts in the back of the room if LaTeX and Overleaf is something you're interested in. You can also download from GitHub on the formatting page. That I've kind of just taken a screenshot of that section, but there's the GitHub repository links as well as direct links to zip files. LaTeX is something that there's a community of users on campus that use it. The template is from a former student who was kind enough to share and create it with us and who has maintained it over the years as we've made some changes in formatting requirements. But it's not something that we have a lot of expertise in the graduate school to help you with. Basically, none. I just don't know how to use it. And people always go, well, all engineers need it. Well, I'm a biomedical engineer, and I can tell you for a fact that my journals do not accept LaTeX format submissions. So not all engineers use LaTeX. There are some engineers who do, and the ones who do think that everybody else does or should. And I'm not going to debate that, but my field wouldn't accept it. So using the word template is pretty simple. Anybody can, for instance, if you've already got a document that you are using and you just want the title and approval pages because those have some fussy formatting on them and maybe you don't want to worry about that, you can just copy paste that text into your document and then it'll be formatted the way that it needs to be formatted. So that's one way to do that. If you've already got your document done and you really don't want to fuss with sticking it in mine, I get it. Just copy paste the title and approval pages. Option number 2, let's say you're a LaTeX user. Maybe you found a format from another university and you absolutely love their template and it meets all of our other needs, but the title page and approval pages are different. You could use the template to fill in the title and approval pages. You could create a PDF of that and you could combine them together. So that's a way that somebody that's using LaTeX or some other piece of software entirely could use the template if they have an existing document that they'd rather kind of keep working with. If you use it as your own document, there'll be a lot of yellow highlighted text. That means you need to change it. So anything that's highlighted in yellow is something that you need to update. And so you'll want to update those things and then remove the yellow highlighting because no one wants yellow highlighting all over their title page. The green highlighted text is all of our instructions. And so the instructions are going to be in there to say, here's where you need to put this stuff here, here, and here. And so you'll want to make sure that you delete all of that because nobody wants to see that in your document either. We used to have a template for the title pages. It's just the title pages. And someone actually kept the header once that said sample title page. You want to get rid of that kind of stuff before you turn in your dissertation. We would recommend then that you use the heading styles that are built into Word, and I'll show you an example of that in a little bit, to create your document outline. So whether it's 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, 6, intro, methods, discussion, results, and start typing. If you use heading styles, your table of contents will automatically build for you, and that will save you some time. There are what are known as section breaks in the document. Section breaks, do not delete any of them. If you delete any of them, you might break your page numbers. And we will do our best to help you fix them, but depending on how many you've deleted or added, it can be more or less challenging. So do not delete section breaks that are in the document. Very important, and we'll take a look at that in the demonstration. So before you use the template, what do you need to know, and what are we kind of going to go over today briefly? You really need to know how to use styles in Word. Can I see how many people know what styles are? Yeah, that's a pretty typical response. Okay, so not many, so we'll talk about those. We'll talk about how you can change them. We'll talk about how to create new ones, and our blog has a series of blog posts on this topic as well, so if what we're talking about today doesn't make sense by the end of this, we can do that. We'll also talk about section breaks, and I can kind of show you how things break if you delete them and where you would need them. So styles, I'm going to go through the description and then I'll do a demo of them. But styles are a way to have the same format so having the same format for different text elements is visually appealing and will help your reader. So having the same style of text for heading 1 throughout your document is going to make it look nicer. Having the same, format of text for all of your chapter headings is going to look good. The same format for all of your text. You wouldn't want single spacing on page 1 and double spacing on page 2 and line and a half on page 3. Like that would just confuse people. They'd be like, why are you changing? It doesn't make sense to me. And Word can help you by doing styles. So the built-in styles are found on the Home tab of the ribbon. And so some of you who maybe said you didn't know what styles are now going, oh, I remember seeing that. And maybe some of you have seen it and wondered what it was there for, and some of you have never used it. If you've never used it, you're doing yourself a disservice because styles are really important. So the default style of any document is called normal. And if your way of formatting documents is selecting text, changing the font size and formatting, and then repeating that throughout your document multiple times, you are doing yourself a disservice and you are you're wasting a lot of time. You're working too hard. There's a better way of doing it. So using the built-in styles, what you would do is you would type text, you would highlight it, and then you'd select the style that you want to do. And if you use styles that are given special names called heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, if you use those styles, Word identifies those as being part of your outline of your document. And that's how Word will automatically build your table of contents. I have seen numerous students who hand type their table of contents. Don't do that. You don't need to. There are electronic tools that can help you. This is like, I learned how to type on a typewriter, a manual typewriter, because my mom thought it was good for me. You don't have to do that anymore. There's an easier way of doing it. So heading 1, 2, 3 are the special styles that are used for that. So here is the template. And so here again is your, there's a little bit of a note here in hot pink just to make sure everyone sees that one. This template's for a dissertation. So if you're not doing a dissertation, you're going to want to use a different one. But here's where the yellow text is. So you'll see that here's your title of your dissertation in all capital letters. Clearly that's not your title. So you're going to replace it with your title and then remove that yellow highlighting. You're not Blizzard T. Husky, so you'll replace Blizzard T. Husky with the name that you would like on your title page. You will put your degree program in here. You do need to update this because template was created in October. That was 2017, it's now 2018, so you'll need to update the date and your name on this copyright line. So that tells you what you need to create there. But let me just go to the document here. I'm going to go to the main. So these are all the sections in the order that they can appear. But here's your main body here. I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller. So here, for example, is a heading 3 subsection. And you can see when I put my cursor in here, how heading 3 is there. And this is, again, where I'm always surprised if people say they don't know what styles are, because if you've got the ribbon here, first of all, it says styles, so that's your first clue. And it's like a big, huge chunk of real estate. So it's a huge part of your ribbon. And if you're not using this part, you're really not using Word to its advantage. But let's say, for example, I want another subsection here. So really I've decided that this is going to have, this section here is going to have another subsection. The template is formatted so that I would just put in here heading 4, and I'll go another heading 4 subsection. You'll notice that it actually, if I could type and talk at the same time, that would be helpful. But it's actually numbered these 1 and 2 for me. So these sections are, these headings are designed to be a numbered format. So if I wanted to say move this one up here, it will also renumber them for me. So it'll do a lot of the manual bookkeeping that you might do if you wanted to have a numbered section. And if I decided maybe here that, oh, this isn't a heading 5 subsection after all, this isn't part of heading, this isn't a subsection, this is actually another heading 4, it'll do that and it'll reformat it to match and it'll number that now a 3. So using those heading styles is really going to save you a lot of time when doing your document. Now I've added this another heading 4 subsection. If we go up to our table of contents, you'll actually notice on the right here how it actually tells me what section I'm in based on the headings. Table of contents here, we added that another section 5 there. If I just update my table of contents and say update the entire table, it's just added those all in there and renumbered everything and it's all numbered up nice and easy. You can start any Word document with headings 1 through 9. Those are built-in styles in Word. So if you've got another document that maybe it's not your dissertation or thesis or this template doesn't suit your needs, any old document, you can use headings 1 through 9 and tell Word how to create a table of contents and it'll do this for you. This is what it does. Now, your table of contents never appears in the table of contents because it's kind of redundant. But usually what happens is your list of figures, tables, preface, all of these things end up being unnumbered. That's the convention for those. So those are actually special. Those are still heading styles, but they're heading 6. So you can only use headings 1 through 5 for your main body of your document. Heading 6 is for your list of figures or anything at the beginning. And then headings 7, 8, and 9 are for your appendices. So if you want to have appendix A, B, C, that's how you would do that in this. This is how this template is set up. Now let's say, for example, I hate Arial. I open up this template and I go, it's great that the graduate school has prepared this for me, but there's no way I want my dissertation to have Arial as the heading for all of these. I want my text to be, I like brush script, and I want it to be bigger. I just think that looks way prettier. If I right-click here and go update this to match selection, this is heading 7. Every place where heading 7 was, it will now update that throughout my entire document. So if you consistently use a style like, in this case we're using normal for this one. I usually use things like body text for my body. I think I decided not to make it that fancy here. But here actually this one is the caption. So I could make all of my captions throughout my entire document be, oh, I don't know, Rockwell extra bold. And I would go here and go update caption to match selection. And now everywhere where I have captions, it will do that. This is extremely powerful. Talk about transferable skills. Use this on your resume. Use this on your CV. Give all your publications the style publication. Give all your job titles the style of job titles. Give all your headings the style of headings. You can make your resume or CV updatable within 10 seconds or less if you don't like the way things are sized or font, or you want to change things up. So this is what I mean by a transferable skill. Once I learned this in my master's thesis, I used it on my resume or my CV, and it was like easy peasy to update it anytime I wanted to. If I wanted to add another job title, I just added another job title. It automatically formatted it the way it was supposed to be formatted. Didn't have to do anything else with it. So that's how you can modify anything in here. So if there's anything in here that you don't like because you think it's not how you want it done, that's how you can do that. You can also, let's say I want to make this, well, one of the ones that I usually like to make are equations. Or maybe you just want some centered text. Let's just do that. Where's my ruler? So I'm going to say I want something maybe centered. Anything that I want to make a new, and maybe I'll make that centered and I'll make it, I'm using the fonts just to kind of illustrate that they're different. Otherwise it sort of doesn't make a whole lot of points. I might find something not quite so. I'll use Garamond. And I'll make it like 16 point. So this is centered text. So this is something special for me. It's not included in the template, but it's something new that I need to do. There's this little button here called New Style. So I can create a new style. And I can say, what I'll do is I usually call mine DDC, and I'll say centered text. If you use your initials, one of the nice things about it is it'll group all the styles that you created together alphabetically. The other thing is you don't then automatically maybe overwrite one of Word's built-in styles. Because if you do that, sometimes weird things happen. If you try to create a new style called bullet, it'll get a little weirded out by that. So if you create your own with your initials, it'll be a little bit more distinctive. And so now, whenever I want that text to be like that, I can just select DDC centered text, and it'll change that. So I use that sometimes for if I've got a special format for my equation lines. I like my equation lines to have the equations centered, and then the equation number on the right-hand side. You can set up a style like that. That'll have your tabs in the right place. So there's things like that, or maybe in your tables you want to have a certain style. The graduate school has a couple of them here called GS. So I've used that format convention there. So anything that's labeled GS is a style that the graduate school has created for you that you might choose to use or not use. So we've now talked about using built-in styles. We've talked about modifying one. So you format the way you want it, right-click and update. It'll go through your whole document. Or you can create a new one. And clicking on that little button here will pop out that menu for you. So format the text the way you like it, click New Style, and you're done. So styles are really a fundamental building block of Word. It's a way that you can very easily format text very quickly, and it's a way that you can save yourself a lot of time. And I've used templates from once you've kind of created the styles, you can bring them into other documents, and then you don't have to recreate them again either. Pause for my tea break there. Okay, so section breaks. Section breaks are the other thing that confuse students quite a lot. It tends to be the biggest problem with page numbers. So a section in Word is defined as a block of pages that share some set of common characteristics. And an example would be maybe the page size. So maybe you have all 8.5 by 11 inch paper, but then you have one piece that's 11 by 17 in the middle of your document. It might also be page orientation. So maybe you have every page is portrait except for these 6 that are landscape. It might also be the location or type of page numbers that you use for a section. And what you would do is you would use the Show Hide Paragraph button on the Home tab to view them. So if I go back to the template, I go to the top of it, that's where we'll find them. If I show hide paragraphs here, we'll see that here's a page break. That's not the same thing as a section break, but there's a section break right here. And you'll notice that on this section, there's no page numbers, but here there are page numbers. And the third page of your document always starts with page III. That is a difference of the section. The difference between that first section and the second section is that one doesn't have page numbers and the other one does. So if you want a page or pages to have different styles of page numbers, different orientation, oversized pages, different margins, switching to different column layouts. One of my places I used to submit abstracts to, you had to have your title across 2 columns, but then when you started your abstract, you had to have a 2-column layout. So it would be like a whole big block on the top and then double columns below it. It was just something special that they did. Different headers and footers, so maybe you want a different header in a different section of your document. Use page section breaks. If you don't need any of that stuff, don't use section breaks. Don't ever use section breaks unless you need them. Because what will happen when you use section breaks, if you untie them in the wrong way, you could make page number changes to pages 10 through 50 that don't propagate through the whole document. Unfortunately, if you need to use landscape pages, you will need to learn how to use section breaks and very quickly and very adeptly. Otherwise, you're going to have a heck of a time. So again, in this document, we've got the Roman numerals here, list of tables. We go through the document, acknowledgments, definitions, abbreviations, abstract. And at the end of your abstract, again, is the last section break. So and again, it does say right here, do not delete the section break on this page because your abstract is page XI, but the first page of your document should be page 1. And so that's how a traditional document is numbered. You do not need to use Roman numerals. You can start from page 1. Your table of contents then would be page 3 in your document. But this is typically how people usually do it. If I delete the section break, for example, now this is page 9. Now maybe that was okay because I'm like, I don't want to use those Roman numerals. What the heck was the grad school making me do that for? So maybe that wasn't the worst thing in the world. But if I delete this section break, now I have page numbers on my approval page, and I'm not supposed to have those. So depending on which one you break or delete, you can really mess things up. But there should only be, if your whole document's or portrait with letter pages, you should only need the 3 at the beginning that are already there for you. So it can lead to disaster unless you know how to use them. Your page numbers can change location, type, or whatever. What I see a lot of students doing is they'll have multiple section breaks. I mean, I've seen documents with like 30 of them, and like they don't have a single page that meets the criteria for it. So they've just kind of used them as page breaks because they kind of do the same thing. It's like, oh, section break, it just goes to the next page. And sometimes that's great, but if your page numbers get messed up, that's gonna not be happy. You can change your margins, and so then people will put these multiple section breaks in, and then at the end of the day, their page numbers they change them on page 10 through 50, and they don't change on page 51 through 100, and so we have to send it back to you. So traditional in a dissertation or thesis is section 1, you'd have no page numbers, so that would be your title page, signature page, and dedication page if you have one. Section 2 would be lowercase Roman numerals. So you would start with III for a document without a dedication page, or IV if you had one. And that would include your table of contents through your abstract. And then section 3 would be your Arabic numbers, or 1, 2, 3, and that would start on the first page of the first chapter to the end of your document. Really important to check your margins. Just because you have a template doesn't mean you can't put in a figure that's way too big for your page. And so it's really important to check your margins. Really important to carefully proofread your final PDF. We'll talk about that more in the last section, how to do that. But you know, one problem on one page can lead to you having to redo it, and nobody wants to do that at the end. And I'll show you an example in the last seminar where, you know, on page 3, it looked so obviously wrong. The student should have noticed it, but they just weren't paying any attention because they were trying to meet the deadline. And I get that, but we want you to finish. We don't want you to kind of have to go back and forth with you. It's not fun for any of us, including you. Use a template. Use the template. Use the template. Learn how to use styles. The students who are using the template are more successful at getting the documents accepted the first time. I'll have some data for that next time I give this talk, because the fall was the first time we really launched it. But we're seeing anecdotally that the students who are using the template and using styles are being a lot more successful the first time around at submitting their documents correctly. If you're not using software for your references, you really should be. EndNote is something you can download for free from the university. That's a standalone program that will allow you to search for references and online, as well as, you know, kind of download files and put them in there. If you're using LaTeX, you can still use EndNote because you can output things into like BibTeX files and things. It's a really nice database for your references. There is training available from the library. I think we do have some links on our website as well to EndNote. It has webinars regularly as well that you can learn how to use that. Mendeley, Zotero, doesn't really matter to us what you use. Find something you're comfortable with and use it, because you will save yourself a lot of time in the end. And again, questions, email the grad school. We will be having formatting workshops later in the semester. These are where you can bring your document itself to a computer lab and where you can work with a trained student to get your questions answered. Typically 98% about Word, just because that's what we're all trained in. It's just what people use in business and what I've never had the opportunity to use it for a dissertation. So trying to learn how to write a dissertation in LaTeX when I don't have one to write is a bit of a, won't be much fun for anybody for me to teach them that. It is targeted to students who need specific help with specific formatting of their nearly complete document. So it's not kind of the, hey, I need help writing seminar. This is the, hey, you told me to move my page numbers up. How can I do that? And we'll help you with that piece of it. They will be beginning about week 10. We'll put them on our blog. We'll advertise them in a bunch of different ways. If you are completing a dissertation, thesis, or report, we'll email you the morning pretty much of every one of them. So you'll probably get more emails than you want from us about it, but we figure it's better to make sure you know that they're happening. And we are targeted in those. We only send them to you if we know you're still in process. Once you've graduated, we don't keep sending those individual reminders. So questions. And again, if you're online, you can use the chat to do that. The chat window is available for anybody who's online to type a question and anybody in person who has a question. Yes, sir.